Hello, YouTube, and hello, Ninth Age community. This is Charles with Evershade Gaming, and I've got another Ninth Age battle report. This is Game 3 of Michigan GT, my Ogre Cons versus some Saurian Ancients. Let's get into it. Here we are with our board, and we played Counter Thrust, and I got to start my deployment first, I believe, so I start with a doggo in the middle. I think my opponent put down some skink braves on his left flank. I put down my yetis on this far flank, knowing that they get to vanguard. They can be behind that, kind of next to them, passable, protecting their flank. And then I plop down the rest of my force and going for turn one. So we're playing a secure target, which one marker is next to that building, and then the other marker is kind of just about middle of the board, maybe a little left of center. And yeah, I pretty much go for turn one. I push up pretty much everywhere except my ogres on that hill, which I kind of ended up regretting. I think it would have been very nice to have just pushed them up, but obviously he's got some juicy things that could be charging out, so I decided not to get too aggressive with it just yet. And on my right flank, I go very aggressive. I push up two Mammoth Hunters, and I push up my Rocker Rock. My Mammoth Hunters, I believe one of them can toss a spear at the Alpha card. I think it's the General, which is, he's got the best spear of all my guys. So, and yeah, my Yetis on the left flank, they just move right up, getting right in front of the face of some Killians. Not really too worried about their damage. And my Tuskers also move up pretty aggressively. They're not too worried about too much going on over there. Yeah, I think this was very happy with the deployment. My opponent, kind of just centers up his Saurus blocks and his magic and his monsters. He's got three big Gribblies, a Taurosaur, Thyroscutus, and then an Alpha Carno. The Thyroscutus is the old 6th edition Stegodon. The Taurosaur is the big white kind of I can't remember what dinosaur it is offhand. I forget my dinosaurs, but it's the big white model on my opponent's side of the field. And then the Alpha Carnus, the 8th edition Carnosaur model. So, and for magic, I took the same spells from Thaumaturgy, Hand of Heaven, Cleansing Fire, Trial of Faith, Smite the Unbeliever, and I have Children of Umi. My opponent, he has Alchemy and Druidism, and my opponent almost exclusively took buffs, but he has like a couple missiles. But he pretty much took all the buffs that he could take from Druidism and Alchemy. And yeah, that's about it. So I didn't really do any damage my turn one with my throwing spears. I only really had one good one on the Alpha Carno, and it misses. So we go into my opponent's turn one. He moves up his spearback so they can shoot at my Tuskers. He just sort of stays put with his skink shooting on the left, and he just turns his big block to look at my general. And yeah, magic, I want to say he just gets Oaken Throne off. He gets Healing Waters off on this. Wasn't too worried about that. And not too much else. So going into my turn two, and I just kind of go for a bunch of different things. So I put the Tuskers. The Tuskers actually, it's like champs, just weathered a bunch of spearback shooting. And I think my opponent was just having tough time getting through R5, which is reasonable. Wasn't rolling a crazy amount of shots, and I think I made a few armor saves. They go into the spearbacks, and they're going to have an overrun into the and then the other skink block. And then I do move up my dog to chap the Temple Guard in case the Thyroscutus wants to come forward and mess with my Ogre block. I'm going to move back this turn to make it as hard as possible. But I did want to be wary of that. And then my Yetis chased down some Chameleon Skinks. They charged. Chameleon Skinks fled, and then they were able to charge in their skink block, which fled, and then they just redirected into Chameleon Skinks, which, as you can see, really didn't flee all that far. And on the right flank, we just go into it we bring the Rock and the two Mammoth Hunters into that spear block, and we're just gonna see how many Saurus we can kill in turn. I want to say my opponent got up Glory Gold, but he wasn't able to put the Flammable, so I put the Fortitude Mammoth Hunter. He's only touching one file of guys, so it's not too terrible. And yeah, I'm thinking I can just do a bunch of damage and then hopefully not take too much in return from a bunch of spears. Now I push up my Tribesman block and I get a little close to the Taurosaur, but I think it's worth it at this point to at the very least support that big combat on the right there. And my Scratapults are just taking aim at the Temple Guard unit. And we go into this combat. Yep, my opponent had Glory Gold up, but doesn't help all that bad. It just, they didn't hit all that well this round. And yeah, we kill like 20 Saurus, which was pretty awesome. Take 2 wins on the Rock. I don't take any on the General. I don't take any on the other Mammoth Hunter. Pretty solid. We don't break them, unfortunately. They were steadfast. So we do a little flip around. I put my Mammoth Hunter with Strength 6 on the Fortitude on the far right, so that if my opponent wants to bring his Alpha Carno in, that's who's going to fight him in a duel. And then I'm hoping that my Rock can just keep thunder stomping these Saurus. I'm hoping they don't get the opportunity to poke him to death or anything right now. My opponent doesn't take the Tribesman bait with the Shaman. He just moves his Thyroscutus over to kind of, actually, I think, interestingly, kind of keep his Temple Guard safe from the Tuskers, since they were chaffed and they decided not to go into the chaff. So my opponent gets Word of Iron, which is really tough because these Saurus are Crocodile Saurus, so they have a 3-up armor save in close combat, and he gets Glory Gold off. Again, thankfully the attribute was out of range, but the extra AP does certainly help because it chews through all the Rock's armor, so that is a bit tough. And then at the end of that combat, we actually lose by like 1 or 2. I think I do a wound or 2 to the Alpha Carno. I don't take any wounds in return on my Mammoth Hunter who's fighting him. The Saurus end up poking the Rock to death. They do the 4 wounds they needed to just get through. Didn't have any way to make any saves, so it was a bit of a bummer. And my General takes I think a wound from one of the spears. Because it was like AP3 spear or something like that. Yeah, that sounds about right. So that was just a bit of a bummer. And then the General fails a break test, but but the other Mammoth Hunter does not. So thankfully, the other Mammoth Hunter is pinning both those units in place. My opponent turns to face the Tribesmen coming in, so they don't get flanked. They just get a front. And then we're in a very funky position. And this is Ogre Khan's turn 3. So the Tuskers were able to clean up the one skink unit, and they go into the other skink unit. And yeah, I move up my BSB in the middle to toss a spear at the Taurosaur. Since my dog didn't get chaffed, it just sort of moves to the side to save itself for later. And yeah, I'm just my tribesmen in the middle with my shaman are just sort of casting missiles and trying to stay in a good spot so that when the time comes, I can just move to the objective marker, and my catapults are killing like a temple guard every now and then, but yeah, we're not really hitting that well or getting all that many wounds through. And my general does rally, so that was good. He's got, I think he's only got one wound left, too, unfortunately. Yep. Between shooting and magic, we get rid of the Torosaur, so that was pretty cool. I think a spear did a couple wounds, and then I think it was just a hand of heaven, like a big hand of heaven came through, and got like 5 or 6 strength 6, 7, like hits or something like that, and I think between those two killed it. So that was very fortunate. And I get a smite the unbeliever off. I think for resilience, I'm just trying to put wounds on this unit. They have the 1-up armor save right now. So this combat actually ends up being pretty dicey in that I'm just having trouble with only AP1 getting anything through his arm. I'm doing all sorts of damage. But I want to say the first round of combat I lose because, as you can see, my Mammoth Hunter dies. He just gets eaten by the Alpha Carno. Just took a wound from the dude up top, and the Alpha Carno hit twice, wounded once, couldn't pass the fortitude, and see you later, Mammoth Hunter. So it was a bit of a tough run right there. So yeah, I think we lost, but we held on the general's discipline, and the BSB was nearby. So yeah, these Saurians are just so tanky right now. Again, my opponent just kind of keeps shuffling. He's just sort of using his since he didn't really have any charges with anything, he's just using his Thyroscutus to block the Tuskers from going into the Temple Guard. If I want to go in there, if I want to get to Temple Guard, I gotta go through Thyroscutus, which has got a 1-up armor save. So, yeah, and then he just brings his Alpha Carna over to sort of look at the flank of the tribesman unit, look at my BSB. The magic phase, he gets Word of Iron off again. I think I think I had to stop Glory Gold, or maybe I couldn't stop Word of Iron. Either way, yeah, we're just sort of stuck in that combat. This is, I want to say, my turn 4. Bring the Tuskers into the Thyroscutus. See if I can get lucky, kill it, get an overrun to the Temple Guard, bring my Yetis over to look at the flank of the Temple Guard. Since I had my dog left, I chaff with my dog into the Alpha Carno because I don't really need that heat, and I can just toss spears at him and bring my tribesmen within 6 inches. And my mage is also just trying to cast magic at the Alpha Carno at this point. Since I'm pretty sure I'm going to eventually break through those 5 or 6 Saurus last, you know what I'm doing is I'm actually stopping the Druidism spells. I'm stopping the regrowth and the fortitude, since they already have a good enough armor save. Yeah, I mean it's tough either way. I just can't. My opponent again. He took all the buffs, so he's just getting them off. And as you can see, I'm starting to slightly whittle down the Temple Guard unit with the Stratapults. Yeah, we also get Children of Umi off, which helps me a bit. And this phase, my opponent finally, I think, just rolls some 1s. We just beat him in combat, so that's helpful. I don't believe we catch them here, though. I think they get away. Yep. And this is going to go into my opponent's turn 4. We don't kill the Thyroscutus. The Alpha Carno eats the dog. And I want to say this is the last turn that we just sort of ran out of time in this game. And I think either we got through 5 turns or I think we got through 5 turns. That sounds about right. Because I think the only other thing that really happens is I'm able to get the points for the Saurus and the Skink Adept, and I kill the Thyroscutus, and I bring the Yetis into the flank of the Thyroscutus, and that's about it. This game was a 17-3. I got the objective with having one of my tribes and units within the marker, and I picked up a whole heap of points. Gave off a decent heap of points, and I lost two. Well, I just lost one of my mammoth hunters, but half points on my general. One of my mammoth hunters. And the rock. I'd say doing really good with that many points. That's not too bad. Yeah. Yeah. And then my opponent actually kept a decent amount of his points since the Temple Guard are expensive, his Cthulhu Lord is expensive, Alpha Carno is expensive. So yeah, fun game. Thanks, Sean. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed this battle report. And I'll see you soon for another 9th Age battle report.